Hi everyone, this is Nick Lewis from Internet 2. Welcome to our virtual EDUCAUSE Security Professionals Conference presentation about where we'll talk about campus experiences using the HECVAT. We miss having a live audience like everyone else does, but hope you enjoy our presentation. We've got 4 campuses today to talk about how they use HECVAT on their campus. And even though we can't do live questions on our recorded sessions, we encourage you to reach out to the HECVAT community group, this group, or the HECVAT core team. And now I'd like to pass it over to Josh Callahan.
Hi, I'm Josh Callahan. I'm the Information Security Officer at Humboldt State University. We're a small master's granting campus that's part of the larger 23 campus California State University system. We're located in the far northern corner of California, and we've got around 7,000 users on campus. We're mostly centralized with our IT shop, but there are a handful of folks out in areas who do IT for the health center and housing in our university center, and we still coordinate their purchases. We've got a campus-wide information technology acquisition review process that coordinates the accessibility review, the general IT supportability review, and as needed, the security review of new purchases that go out. And so that screening process asks the user some basic questions and identifies based on the type of data that's handling whether or not it gets flagged for review, and then myself or my security analyst gets involved for the ones that do and take a look to see whether we need to issue a HECVAT. And our criteria for that is if it's campus protected data that's being hosted off-site or is accessible off-site by employees of the vendor, then we require a HECVAT, and we have a set of information security supplemental provisions that go into the contract, and we identify those with a vendor cover letter that we send out to that vendor as part of the procurement process. And the kind of the example that I'm going to use is how we got into this. I had been the chair of our CSU system-wide Information Security Advisory Council a few years ago, and at the end of my term, I polled my fellow security officers around the system, kind of, what's the biggest issue that you've been dealing with, and like far and beyond above, everyone's issue was that huge increase in the amount of time that people were spending on doing security reviews of products, and our system-wide mail list was just full of us like saying, hey, I'm doing this to a vendor, does anybody have a review they could share? And we're all using kind of different formats and different questions. And so I chaired kind of a dissolving task force for a year after I left that chair position, and we kind of standardized process. And one of the things that we did was standardize on the HECVAT. We produced that vendor request letter that goes out to vendors to kick off the process, and then we also did some work on scoring the HECVAT, and that's how I ended up getting pulled into being part of the HECVAT core team as we incorporated that scoring model into version 2 and beyond of the HECVAT. So I covered all those questions, and I'll hand things off to Charlie Eskew at Indiana University. Thanks.
Thank you, Josh. I am Charlie Eskew. I am the Extended Information Security Manager with the Security Office at Indiana University. We are a large institution, large public institution. We have a central topology or central support function within the university called UITS. On top of that, we have about 85 or 90 IT units that are provide IT services for our schools and departments out on campus. So we have a lot of collaboration with those who are at it on the edge, what we do for the third-party assessments or vendor assessment work. We have integrated the HECVAT into our procurement process. I think it's one of the most important things to implement is to have the HECVAT knowledge or the expectation set in your procurement processes. And we've been using the HECVAT at IU since its inception. So that brings me to why I'm part of the HECVAT team. I'm currently the co-chair of the HECVAT community group that has just recently launched. More information on that coming in the future. But where it came from is we were looking for a way to standardize our assessments, find out in the community if there was a way to share assessments so that we could deal with the volume. Back in 2015, 2016, IU was doing about 100, 130 third-party or vendor risk assessments each year. So it was consuming quite a bit of our time. Went to the first meeting back in 2016, I believe it was, with Nick and John Allen, and we started the working group after that. And the first HECVAT was released in October of 2016, and we adopted it immediately. So that's where I am in the group. As far as how we use it on our campus, when it comes to the HECVAT, Indiana University is all in. We use all versions of the tool. So we use it mainly in our third-party risk assessments. We do assessments using for our enterprise systems. It's part of our procurement process in which we require a HECVAT Lite in all of our RFQs and RFPs. And then based on the responses, those that are selected for the next round are usually asked, at least for enterprise systems, to populate the HECVAT full. We're starting to do some internal assessments with the on-prem, and I'll speak to that here in just a little bit. With the HECVAT, we use it, it's really a common tool that allows many groups to have a tangible document that links our efforts. So it's really hard to get everybody moving the same direction when it comes to the purchasing of these softwares and services. So HECVAT has helped us quite a bit in that time period. The next thing that it really helps out with is meeting the expectations of our data stewards. So in Indiana University, we do not, or the security office does not disapprove or approve products. That is the role of our data stewards. So we just write reports and give recommendations or consultations with our data stewards so that they can be better informed and make the right decisions. So that really is a piece of, helps us find common ground with those who are less technical, understand the risks when it comes to adopting a platform. So as far as the process, how we use the HECVAT, the security office at Indiana University has 6 analysts, full-time analysts. A large portion of their work is vendor assessment work and consultations internal. We use the full for enterprise systems or systems that are using critical data. We use a Lite for restricted and or niche operations or small scale operations. And then our triage tool, we have a tool that we call the data handling request, but it's essentially the HECVAT on-prem in a digital format. We use Qualtrics for that. So that's how we're using it here. And as far as an example of what we're looking forward to do is we had released on-prem last year. We had not done so much with it, but we had an incident that has given us the opportunity to do a little bit of different risk assessments, consultations with our community, and inter-unit consultation. So we are using the on-prem in a type of modified assessment with that new effort. So I'm open for anybody to contact me if you have any questions about what we're doing at Indiana University. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleague, Daphne Ireland with Princeton University.
Hey everyone, I'm Daphne from the Information Security Office at Princeton University. And I'll let you read the statistics on the slide while I give you a little bit of additional context. Princeton's mission really focuses on teaching and research. We are, as you will see, smaller than many of the institutions in this session. And it's worth pointing out that Princeton University does not have any law school, no business school, nor any medical school. So we are truly focused and smaller when it comes to scope. We definitely use the HECVAT as a success criterion during Princeton University's IT vendor risk assessment. The HECVAT that we use is both the cloud-hosted version and the on-premise version. Our conversations tend to focus on the authentication, encryption, data centers, vulnerability management, but many of the other questions that are on the HECVAT help surface risks that relate to things like the startup nature of companies that we think is important to have a conversation about on the early end of things and keep an eye on. In terms of process, the HECVAT is definitely embedded in our procurement and our IT vendor security processes. The ideal process is that all applications will come through our project management team, and then the RFP process, and then the architecture and security review. That's a group that I'll spend a little bit more time talking about. And then pass through for contract negotiation or review with general counsel. So the heart of that process, from my perspective anyway, is the cross-functional team, the architecture and security review. It is a group that uses the HECVAT as a foundation for an enhanced, expanded conversation with the vendor. During that conversation, we actually cover 5 different areas: the architecture, the security, compliance, privacy, and accessibility issues. And it's a really great opportunity for everyone in the group, you know, these subject matter experts, as well as the requester, who may not have the same information technology and security awareness as others, and the vendor, to all get on the same page and have a real conversation about the implementation. And I would say that the absolute key to that process is that the HECVAT be completed and reviewed prior to signature of the contract. That way we are able to collect the best information from the vendor, and the requester can take all of the recommendations of the ASR to heart and implement them. And also, we have recommendations. We are not an approval mechanism. So as an example of the HECVAT, we have so many fun examples. You know, we have ordinary ones like the review of financial system, interesting ones like reviewing sensors that measure rainwater on roofs. But one that I'd like to share with you is a sort of fun one on a salad robot. So we were asked by dining services about implementing a salad robot in our cafeterias. So the ASR used the HECVAT to create a foundation of understanding about the architecture of where the machine would sit on our network, what security features it had. It also raised all of the questions that relate to PCI compliance, which were important. And then also about accessibility issues on whether you know, the hungry customer can actually use the interface appropriately regardless of their abilities. So the way that it works, it turns out that you can set up in front of this machine, select the vegetables that you'd like to have, so maybe some croutons, some salad dressing, and then the drum spins around and dispenses the vegetables, and you pay with your credit card. So it didn't turn out to be quite the humanoid robot that we were led to believe initially, but it was still fun to review something like that. And you know what? We'll have a robot in about 5 minutes, so it was a fun one to do. So I thank you for your attention. I would welcome you reaching out to me to have a conversation. And with that, I'd like to pass it to our colleague at University of Richmond, Shauna Sumter. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Hi, I'm Shauna Sumter, the Director of Information Security at University of Richmond. We are a private liberal arts institution located in Central Virginia. We have about 7,500 users on campus. About 4,000 of those are our students, full-time students, and then you add faculty, staff, and then our part-time students. Our information services department is centrally located. However, we do have IT employees in IT functions in the different departments, particularly those that are larger organizations, and they have large systems to manage and maintain. So we adopted the HECVAT about a year and a half ago because once it came out with the second version, some vendors we found were filling out the HECVAT, so that seemed like it made it easier to just have them complete that information one time. And that's where it started. However, we found that some vendors did not complete the HECVAT with the spirit that it was intended. So we found that we were still asking additional questions and having to provide a questionnaire for follow-up information. So what we did was we took our questionnaires and matched them up with the questions from the HECVAT and pretty much did a crosswalk. So if the vendor has the HECVAT, we say, great, send that to us and we'll review it and we'll match those questions up to make sure that they answered all of our questions completely. If they did not, then we can at least go back to the vendor and say, hey, we would like clarification on this, and this is the HECVAT number that it aligns to. So at least maybe they could update their HECVAT for the next institution that they send it over to. And that's really cut down a lot on the back and forth with vendors when we do an evaluation of their product. And so as far as procurement, I say no, it's not integrated. However, if we're doing an RFP, then that is part of the HECVAT is part of the RFP process, but for the normal procurement, it is not. It's pretty much where our procurement team has a flag, and if it has an IT component, then they kick it over to Central IS, and at that point, we will reach out to the vendor and the project sponsor to ask for either their HECVAT or to answer our security questions. And it's been working fairly well. We had an example recently last week where our dining services team, they're looking to bring a new service onto campus, and the vendor had the HECVAT completed, which was really helpful because we were on a tight timeline, and I was able to go through the HECVAT and look at their responses and came up with maybe 5 or 6 questions for the vendor, which really were questions of clarification, so that the follow-up technical call only took us about 20 minutes. And we were able to go ahead and improve the product, and then our dining services team was able to move forward with their initiative. So that's pretty much how HECVAT works in our environment. We are working on integrating it more into the procurement process, and then hopefully have it where it becomes second nature for our campus partners. And that's where we are. So at that, I will turn it back over to Nick. Thank you.
Excellent, thanks, Shauna. Just a real quick closing. So we'd like to thank everyone for listening in, and I'd like to share a couple closing resources. The HECVAT has a newly updated website, so please check it out. We also, as Charlie mentioned, have a new community group email list for questions and discussions, along with the continually updated REN ISAC Cloud Broker Index. The HECVAT is brought to you by a collaboration between EDUCAUSE Internet 2 and the REN ISAC, and the core team and the around 100 community members working on HECVAT over the last 3+ years. So I'd like to thank you for your attendance today, and thanks everyone for being involved with the HECVAT and showing interest. Thanks, everyone.